It all started one seemingly normal afternoon when my son, Lucas, came running into the kitchen, his little face a mix of confusion and curiosity. "Dad, who is Tom, and why does Mom say she loves him?" he asked, holding a phone in his tiny hands. I froze, my heart suddenly hammering in my chest. The phone was one I hadn't seen before, a sleek black device that didn't look like anything I would expect to see lying around in our home. My wife, Emma, had always told me she had a work phone, but I never questioned it. In fact, I trusted her more than anything. That phone, however, was now in my son's hands, and everything about the way he said "I love him" hit me like a punch to the stomach. I stared at Lucas for a second longer, gathering my thoughts. My first instinct was to tell him to go outside and play, to not worry about things that were clearly meant for grown-ups, but I couldn't. The fact that Lucas had come to me with this phone and these questions meant something was wrong. I knew it in my gut. So I took the phone from him without a word and handed him a cookie, trying to keep my voice steady. Once he was distracted, I unlocked the phone and immediately opened the text messages. My heart raced as I scrolled through conversation after conversation, each one more damning than the last. The messages weren't innocent. They weren't just casual flirtation. No, they were full of affection, intimacy, and plans that I had never been a part of. "Hey babe, thinking of you again. The kids are out of the house tonight, so we can finally be together without interruptions. Can't wait to see you later, I miss you. I love you too, Tom. You know I've been wanting this for so long. I promise, soon we'll be free to be together the way we should." There were more. So many more. I couldn't believe what I was reading. My wife, Emma, had been seeing someone else for who knows how long. And not just that, she was planning to leave me. To leave us. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I had ever imagined. I felt sick, like my world had suddenly tilted on its axis, and nothing made sense anymore. But there was one message that really shook me. Emma had been telling Tom about our life together, about our struggles. She even talked about Lucas, my son. "It's so hard pretending everything is okay with him, you know? But it's worth it because we're almost there. Soon, it'll be just you and me." I felt like I was suffocating, as if the walls were closing in on me. My wife, the woman I had spent nearly a decade building a life with, the mother of my child, was planning to leave me for another man. She had been lying to me for months, possibly longer, and I had been too blind to see it. I had always been the one to put her first, to trust her, to support her in everything. Yet, here she was, orchestrating her escape, all while pretending like nothing was wrong. I couldn't stop reading, couldn't stop myself from sinking deeper into the pit of hurt that was swallowing me whole. And then I saw it. A message that made my blood run cold. "Once this is over, we can be a family, Tom. I'll take the kids. I'll make it look like I'm the victim. You won't have to worry about anything. I've got it all planned." The realization hit me like a slap to the face. She had been manipulating me this whole time, setting me up to be the bad guy. She wanted to make it look like I was the one at fault, the one who didn't care, while she painted herself as the martyr, the woman stuck in a loveless marriage. It was all part of her plan. She had already made up her mind. I sat there, staring at the screen, trying to process everything I had just discovered. It felt like the ground beneath me was crumbling, and all I could do was hold on to the fragments of what used to be my life. Emma wasn't the person I thought she was. I wasn't the man I thought I was either, not anymore. I wasn't angry, not yet. There was no point in yelling, no point in confronting her in that moment. I knew what I had to do. I needed to stay calm, collected. I had to be the steady one for Lucas, even if everything inside me was falling apart. And so I did the one thing I knew I could do without falling apart. I made breakfast. It was what I always did in the mornings. The routine kept me grounded. I cracked eggs, started the coffee, and made pancakes. I could feel the weight of everything pressing down on me, but I kept moving. As I flipped the pancakes, I thought about what I would say when Emma came down. She would probably act like everything was fine, as if nothing had changed. She would kiss me, ask how my night was, and pretend like I didn't know what she had been doing. I wasn't sure if I could look her in the eye. How could I? How could I be in the same room as her after everything I had seen? But I had no time for that. The betrayal was already too deep. It didn't matter what she said. What mattered was Lucas. He needed me, and that was the only thing that kept me from falling apart. By the time Emma came down to the kitchen, I had finished making breakfast. She smiled at me, like nothing was wrong. "Morning, babe. You're up early," she said, leaning over to kiss me on the cheek. I didn't respond, just nodded, trying to keep my face neutral. Lucas was already sitting at the table, eating his pancakes. He glanced up at Emma and asked the question again, his voice quiet but direct. "Mom, who is Tom, and why do you love him?" Emma froze for a moment, her smile faltering. I could see the confusion and panic flash across her face before she quickly regained her composure. "What are you talking about, honey? I don't love anyone else." I kept my eyes on her, not saying a word. She glanced at me, and for the first time in a long time I saw guilt in her eyes. But it was too late for her to cover it up. She couldn't hide anymore. "I'll take Lucas to my place today," I said, my voice calm but firm. "And he's staying there. For good." Emma laughed, her voice full of disbelief. "What? Are you serious?" I didn't flinch. "Yes, I'm serious. I'm done," she scoffed. "You think you can just take him from me? You really think a judge is going to agree with you?" "I don't need a judge," I said. "I have everything I need. Everything's already in motion." Emma's face turned pale as she realized what I meant. I had already contacted a lawyer. I had already started the process for full custody of Lucas. By the time evening came, I wasn't the one who was surprised. An attorney showed up at our doorstep, carrying a thick folder full of documents. He handed Emma the papers, a full custody request with all the evidence I needed to prove Emma's betrayal, her manipulations, and her plans to leave me. The look on her face was priceless. She stared at the papers in disbelief, her hands shaking as she flipped through the documents. I watched her, calm, my gaze unwavering, while she struggled to comprehend what was happening. The room was thick with tension, and for the first time in years, I felt in control. She opened her mouth to protest, but no words came out at first. The silence between us felt like an eternity. I knew she would try to lie her way out of it, maybe even twist the story, but I was prepared. She had no idea what I had uncovered, no idea how much I had already put together. Finally, she spoke, her voice laced with irritation. "You can't just do this, Mark. You can't take him from me. You have no right to do this. I'm his mother." I raised an eyebrow, keeping my voice even. "You lost that right the moment you decided to betray me, Emma. The moment you started planning our divorce with him behind my back. This isn't about you being his mother. It's about doing what's best for him. And that's what I'm doing." Her face turned a shade of pale I had never seen before. I think she realized, in that instant, that the game was over. There would be no more pretending, no more lies, no more pulling the wool over my eyes. "You think you can just take him? That a judge will hand him over just like that?" She snapped again, trying to regain some semblance of control. I nodded slowly. "Actually, I don't think. I know. I've got all the proof I need. Your secret phone, the texts, your plans to leave. It's all here, Emma. I wasn't blind. You just thought I was too stupid to notice." She recoiled slightly, but I could see the wheels turning in her mind. She was calculating, trying to figure out how she could spin this, how she could turn the tables on me. But it was too late. The evidence was clear, and there was no getting out of it now. The lawyer who had come with the papers gave her a sympathetic look, but he didn't waver. "You'll need to contact your attorney, Emma. You've been served. You can contest this in court if you want, but the process is underway." The finality in his tone seemed to break through whatever composure Emma had left. Her eyes filled with a mixture of anger and panic, and for a brief moment I saw the real her. The woman who had betrayed me, who had been planning her escape all along. "Do you really think you're doing the right thing?" she asked, her voice trembling with a kind of bitterness I had never heard before. "Do you think Lucas is better off with you? You don't know anything about what's best for him." I stood my ground, the weight of her words washing over me, but not moving me. "I know what's best for him, Emma, and it's not living in a house where lies are the foundation. It's not growing up in a home where his mother is planning to leave and his father is the last to know." She couldn't meet my gaze anymore. Instead, she let out a long, defeated sigh and sank down onto the couch, her shoulders slumping in resignation. I knew this wasn't the way she imagined things would go. She had expected to control the narrative, to make herself the victim, to play the part of the betrayed wife. But now, she was caught, and the truth was out. The lawyer turned to me. "I'll be in touch with your legal team, Mr. Warren. We'll make sure the papers are filed properly and move forward from there." He gave me a curt nod before leaving us alone in the quiet of the house. The silence was deafening. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the clock on the wall, and the soft breath of Lucas in the other room, still oblivious to the magnitude of what was happening around him. Emma remained on the couch, her eyes glazed over. She didn't look like the woman I had married. She didn't look like the woman who had promised me forever. Instead, she looked like a stranger, someone I couldn't recognize anymore. I walked over to the table, where Lucas had finished his pancakes and was now playing with his toy car. I bent down beside him, placing my hand gently on his shoulder. He looked up at me, his innocent eyes full of curiosity. "Dad, is everything okay?" he asked, his voice soft. I smiled at him, though I could feel the weight of everything still pressing on my chest. "Everything's going to be okay, buddy," I said, my voice steady, even though my world was falling apart around me. "I promise." I stood up and took a deep breath before turning to Emma. "I'm taking him now. He's coming with me. We'll get everything sorted out later, but for now, he needs to be with me." Emma opened her mouth to argue, but no sound came out. She knew she had lost. She knew it wasn't going to be that easy. There was no more negotiating, no more bargaining. I had made my decision, and it wasn't about anger. It wasn't about revenge. It was about protecting my son. Lucas walked over to me and grabbed my hand, his small fingers curling around mine. I could feel him looking up at me, trusting me. It was that trust, that unspoken bond between father and son, that kept me standing tall in that moment. "Come on, buddy. Let's go home." We left the house together, leaving Emma behind in the empty silence. I could hear her faintly calling after us, but I didn't turn around. There was nothing left to say. The drive home was quiet. Lucas didn't ask any more questions, but I could tell he was processing what had happened. His little face was full of confusion, but there was a calmness in his eyes that told me he trusted me. He always had. I glanced at him in the rearview mirror every so often, making sure he was okay, even though I wasn't sure if I was okay. It's funny, isn't it? How life can change so drastically in just a matter of hours. One minute, everything seems perfectly normal, and the next, everything is shattered, and you find yourself not knowing who you are anymore, or what you're supposed to do next. I kept my hands on the wheel, focused on the road ahead, but in my mind, I was replaying the events over and over again. The phone, the texts, Emma's face as the lawyer handed her the papers. The weight of the entire situation felt like a heavy stone in my chest, pressing down with every breath I took. Lucas shifted in his seat, breaking my thoughts. "Dad?" His small voice was hesitant, like he was unsure if he should even speak. I glanced at him. "Yeah, buddy?" "Where's Mom? Why didn't she come with us?" His eyes were wide, full of innocent curiosity, but I could see the fear there too. It was like he knew something was wrong but couldn't quite understand it. I didn't know how to explain it to him. How could I? How could I explain to my 8-year-old son that his mother, the person he trusted most in the world, had betrayed everything we had together? That she had planned to leave us both behind? She's staying at the house for now, Lucas," I said, my voice catching slightly. "But you're staying with me now. I'm not letting anything happen to you." He nodded quietly, his fingers playing with the edge of his shirt. "Okay, Dad, I'm glad I'm with you." That was all I needed to hear. The guilt, the pain, the betrayal. It all seemed to melt away in that moment, like it didn't matter anymore. All that mattered was that Lucas felt safe. All that mattered was that I would protect him, no matter what. When we finally got to my place, I took a deep breath as I parked the car in front. It wasn't much, just a small 2-bedroom apartment with a kitchen and a living room that always felt a little too empty when I was by myself. But it was mine. And now, it would be his too. Lucas unbuckled his seatbelt and hopped out of the car before I could even open the door. "Come on, Dad, let's go in." He tugged at my sleeve, excited, like everything was still normal. It almost broke my heart. I couldn't help but smile, though. He didn't know what had happened. He didn't know that the life we'd built together had been destroyed in a matter of hours. He didn't know how his mother had turned our world upside down. But I wasn't going to let him suffer. I wasn't going to let him feel the weight of Emma's choices. Inside, I showed him to his room, which I'd made sure was set up just like his old one. The familiar toys and decorations were all there. I had planned to move some things around to make it feel a little more like home. But I could tell Lucas needed the comfort of the familiar. "Do you want me to read you a story?" I asked, trying to keep things as normal as possible. He nodded eagerly, and I could see his exhaustion start to catch up with him. I sat down beside him on the bed, pulling the covers up around him as I began reading his favorite book. His eyelids grew heavier with each word, and before long, he was asleep, his little body curled up in the same way he had slept for years. I watched him for a while, my heart aching. I could still feel the sting of everything Emma had done, but it didn't matter. Not right now. Lucas was here with me. He was safe, and that's all that mattered. The evening felt strangely peaceful, like it was a moment to breathe after all the chaos. But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. The legal battles, the questions, the pain, it would all come soon enough. But for now, I allowed myself a small moment of peace. I stood up quietly and left the room, making sure to close the door softly behind me. The apartment was silent now, just me and the echoes of my own thoughts. I needed time to process everything. I needed to figure out what came next, how to move forward, and how to make sure Lucas never felt the hurt that I was feeling. I sat on the couch, staring at the walls, feeling the weight of everything pressed down on me again. But this time, it wasn't the betrayal that hurt the most. It was the fear. The fear that I might not be enough, that I might not be able to protect Lucas from the fallout of all this. I thought about Emma, about what she had done, about how she had looked at me when the lawyer handed her those papers. She thought she could control everything. She thought she could have it all. But what she didn't understand was that she had already lost everything. And in that moment, as I sat alone in the quiet of my apartment, I realized something. I wasn't the one who had lost. I wasn't the one who had betrayed. And I wasn't going to let her take everything from me. I had my son. I had my future. And no matter what Emma tried to do next, I would protect them both with everything I had. Tomorrow, the legal battle would begin. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, I finally felt like I was in control. I was ready for whatever came next. The night passed in a blur, and I woke up early the next morning, the same heavy feeling in my chest from the night before still present. But there was something different now. Something that shifted inside me when I saw Lucas's peaceful face, the way he slept without any care in the world. I stood by the window for a long while, watching the city come to life, thinking about what I had learned in the last 24 hours. The realization that Emma had been living a double life, planning her exit, lying to me, to all of us, was still too much to fully comprehend. But there was something about being in this space, alone with Lucas, that made me feel like I had purpose again. My mind kept going back to the moment when I stood in front of Emma, watching her face crumble as the lawyer handed her the papers. I didn't feel any joy in seeing her like that. Not really. I didn't want to see her suffer, but I couldn't deny the satisfaction of knowing that for once, the truth was on my side. She couldn't lie her way out of this. But I wasn't here for revenge. I wasn't here to make her life harder. I was here for my son. I had promised him that I would take care of him, and I would do whatever it took to ensure that he didn't suffer any more than he already had. After breakfast, I called the lawyer again, confirming the next steps. The process had already started, and though it felt strange, it was necessary. I couldn't afford to let emotions cloud my judgment. "Mark, I know this isn't easy, but you're doing the right thing," the lawyer said, his voice professional but empathetic. "The texts, the phone, all of it works in your favor. The court will recognize that Emma is unfit to care for Lucas in this state." I took a deep breath. I just don't want him to feel like he's in the middle of this. I don't want to drag him into something he doesn't understand. "You're already protecting him by making sure he's with you, Mark. It's tough, but it's what's best for him. Kids need stability." "I know," I muttered. "I just wish it hadn't come to this." "Me too," but you're doing the right thing." After the call ended, I stood there in silence for a while. It wasn't easy to feel so alone in this, even with Lucas here, even with the truth on my side. It was hard to shake the feeling that I had failed in some way. I had trusted Emma, believed in our life together, and now everything was falling apart. But I couldn't let myself dwell on that. I had to be strong for him. I spent the rest of the day getting everything settled, organizing things in the apartment to make it more comfortable for Lucas. I didn't want him to feel like this place was just a temporary solution. I wanted him to feel at home, to feel safe, just as he had in the house we used to share. It wasn't much, but it was ours. By the time evening rolled around, Lucas had adapted quickly to the new routine. He had asked a lot of questions earlier, but after a few hours of playtime and a favorite dinner, he seemed to forget the tension. We watched a movie together, just the two of us, curled up on the couch like we had done so many times before. But as much as I tried to focus on the present, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling in the back of my mind that Emma would do anything to turn this around, to manipulate the situation in her favor. I could see it now, her playing the victim, accusing me of keeping Lucas from her, painting herself as the martyr in front of our friends, our family. She had done it before, and she would try again. But I wasn't going to let her control the narrative this time. The next few weeks were a blur. I spent my days working, my nights with Lucas, and the moments in between meeting with lawyers and gathering all the evidence I could. Emma didn't try to contact me directly. She sent her attorney instead, sending messages that, while polite, were full of empty threats and veiled accusations. She claimed I was unfit to raise Lucas on my own, tried to paint me as the one who had caused the breakdown of our marriage. But no matter what she tried, I stayed firm. The evidence was irrefutable. I had everything. And as much as I hated to think it, Emma wasn't the woman I had married anymore. She was someone I didn't even recognize. I kept my focus on Lucas, making sure he felt loved, stable, and secure. He asked about Emma sometimes. When is Mom coming, or why didn't Mom call? But I always kept my answer simple. She's busy right now, buddy, but I'm here, and that's what matters. We spent weekends in the park, went on trips to the zoo, and took long walks by the river. I started to realize something that gave me hope. It wasn't just about surviving the fallout of the betrayal. It was about rebuilding. It was about forging a new life for Lucas and me, one that wasn't tainted by the past. I couldn't change what had happened, but I could control what came next. And I wasn't going to let Emma destroy that. One day, after a long meeting with my lawyer, I returned to the apartment to find Lucas sitting on the floor, assembling a Lego castle. His face lit up when he saw me, and for a moment, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in weeks. "Dad, look, I made the castle just like the one in the storybook," he said, excited. I smiled and knelt down beside him, admiring his work. "It looks amazing, buddy. You're really good at this." He beamed. "Thanks, Dad. Can we build another one?" And right then, I knew. As long as I was here, as long as I could be there for him, we'd be okay. No matter what Emma tried, no matter how hard she fought, I would never let her tear us apart. We had a future, and that was all that mattered now. As the days went by, I settled into this new rhythm with Lucas, and things started to feel more normal. Even if it wasn't the normal I had expected, we were building something new, just the two of us. And in some strange way, it felt like I was reclaiming my life, even though I never imagined it would happen this way. Emma, on the other hand, didn't make things easy. The legal battle was long and drawn out. Her lawyer kept sending letters, trying to push for joint custody or even full custody of Lucas, despite all the evidence against her. They accused me of using Lucas as a pawn in a game of revenge. They made it sound like I was the villain in this whole situation. But every time I saw Lucas's face, his bright eyes, the way he ran to me for comfort when something scared him, I knew the truth. I knew I was doing the right thing. I wasn't doing this to hurt Emma. Not really. I was doing it to protect him. I was doing it because I had to. She had already made her choice, and it wasn't a choice I could respect. She had chosen someone else over her family, over our son. That was something I couldn't just ignore. Lucas had started asking more questions about what was going on with his mom. He'd seen me speaking with my lawyer a few times, and I could see the confusion in his eyes. He didn't understand why she wasn't coming around, why she wasn't here to tuck him in at night like she used to. He didn't know the truth yet, and I was doing my best to shield him from it for as long as I could. One evening, as we sat at the dinner table, he asked me again, "Dad, why doesn't Mom come over? Is she mad at me?" I set my fork down, taking a deep breath. I had been dreading this moment. I knew I couldn't lie to him forever, but I wasn't sure how to explain it to him in a way he could understand. "Buddy, she's not mad at you," I said, keeping my voice calm. "She's just going through some things right now, and we're going to be okay. I promise you." Lucas nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. "Is it because of Tom?" I froze. He had been so quiet about it up until now, but this hit hard. I swallowed, trying to steady myself. "Tom is someone that Mom has been talking to, someone she cares about," I said, the words feeling like they were coming from someone else. "But that's not your fault. None of this is. I want you to know that." He looked at me, the little furrow between his brows deepening. "So Mom doesn't want to be with us anymore?" I couldn't hide the pain in my voice when I spoke next. "I don't know what she wants, Lucas, but what I do know is that you're my #1 priority. You always will be." He stayed quiet for a moment, his fork half lifted, and then he slowly set it down. "Okay, Dad, I just want to see her. I miss her." "I know you do, buddy," I said softly, reaching across the table to ruffle his hair. "I miss her too." But the truth was, I didn't know if I could ever forgive Emma. Not for what she did to me, and not for the way she was hurting Lucas by not being here when he needed her the most. She had chosen a path that left him in the dark, and I was left trying to pick up the pieces. Over the next few weeks, the legal process continued, but I could tell it was taking its toll on both of us. I was spending a lot of time in meetings, going over every bit of evidence I had, preparing for court. But I always made sure Lucas knew he was my priority. Every moment we spent together was precious, and I wasn't going to waste it. I took him to his soccer games, and we started playing catch in the backyard. On weekends, we went on little adventures to the park or the zoo, anything to make him smile. And in those moments, when it was just the two of us, it felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. But every now and then, the weight of everything would come crashing down. The nights were the hardest. I'd lie awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what Emma was doing, what she was saying. I wondered if she missed us, or if she was too far gone to care. And then there was the guilt. Guilt that I had to be the one to raise Lucas on my own now. Guilt that I couldn't give him the family he deserved. He was so young, and I didn't want him to feel like he had to choose between us. But I knew the damage was already done. Emma had chosen a different path, and I wasn't going to let her take Lucas down that road with her. One afternoon, after a particularly difficult meeting with my lawyer, I came home to find Lucas sitting on the floor, staring at the TV but clearly lost in his thoughts. His eyes flicked up to mine as I walked in, and I could see the hesitation in his gaze. "Hey, buddy," I said, kneeling down beside him. "How was your day?" He shrugged, but I could tell something was bothering him. "I don't know. I just don't get it, Dad. Why can't we just go back to how things were?" My heart clenched at the simplicity of his question. "I know, Lucas. I don't get it either. But sometimes people change. Sometimes they make choices that hurt other people, and all we can do is keep moving forward, okay?" He nodded slowly, but I could tell he wasn't fully convinced. It hurt me to see him struggling with something so much bigger than him. He shouldn't have to understand this yet. He shouldn't have to carry the weight of his mother's choices on his shoulders. But I wasn't going to let him carry it. I wasn't going to let him feel like he was at fault for any of this. I had to make sure he knew that. "We're in this together, okay?" I said, pulling him into a hug. "No matter what happens, I've got your back, always." He hugged me back tightly, and for a brief moment, I felt like we might just be okay. It wasn't going to be easy, and it wasn't going to be perfect, but we were going to get through it. Together. And as I held him, I made a promise to myself. I wasn't going to let Emma tear us apart. No matter how much she tried, no matter how much she thought she could control the narrative, I would be there for Lucas. I would be the father he deserved, and I would protect him from the fallout of her choices. This wasn't over. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I was ready for whatever came next.